And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. It's orange!
145! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane to be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep that. We don't need any more of these.
Good afternoon, everybody. Live from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This you're looking at right now is a Falcon 9 vertical on Slick 40 for the Starlink Group 657 mission. My name is Ryan Caton, taking you through all of today's launch activities, not just from this launch pad, but also its neighbouring launch pad later in the day. Because this is, of course, fingers crossed if everything sticks to schedule, the second most exciting launch of today. It's not just my voice you're going to be listening to for the next hour or so, however, because joining me in the virtual studio is a certain Alex, who's always writing all of the information to do with the launches, and once again is, well, you can hear it from the horse's mouth, which I think is the phraseology that Chris likes to use. Alex, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. We'll have two launches today, and one a little bit more exciting than the other, I guess, because it's launching humans. But yeah, we got to get these launches off first and then continue.
And out in the field, two people who have been putting in a lot of work over the last day or so, preparing for that very exciting launch this evening. One of them is with us on commentary today. Max Evans, how are you doing?
I'm doing splendid, Ryan. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody, from wherever you may be watching from. And we are getting set for what is supposed to be, at least so far, a very exciting doubleheader. And this would be the appetizer for the main event tonight. Sorry, Alex, I'm stealing that off for you. But yeah, it's looking really good today. There's a nice breeze coming off the sea right now, and it feels great because it is a warm one today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see the heat haze is a little bit worse than normal. It's always bad in Florida. There's literally nothing we can do about it because we cannot change the laws of physics, but it's especially bad today. Fingers crossed that clears up later in the evening for the Starliner launch, because of course that'll be later, it'll be darker. We want to be able to see as much as possible. Our second person out in the field, you may have heard me say two people. D is out there as well at the press site with Max, operating the other camera that we've got set up this afternoon, ready for the launch in just 53 minutes time. And as always, people who have watched us before will know exactly what I'm about to say. If you have a question or comment you want to bring it to our attention, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight, and that'll come into a nice little question and comment queue we have here. It helps to filter out all of the other chat, because if we ingested all of chat at once, we would literally, we just wouldn't be able to read it, because sometimes you guys are absolutely crazy. So let's get on with what we're actually about to see in just over 50 minutes time. Alex, what rocket are we looking at right now, and what is it about to do?
Yeah, so we are seeing a Falcon 9 rocket on Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, just 2.5 kilometers away from the other start of the show. It's literal start because it's Starliner. But yeah, so essentially it is carrying 23 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit, the usual 43-degree inclination orbit, and so it's going to head all the way to the southeast with a drone ship landing 599 kilometers downrange. It's going to get the usual two-burn profile from the second stage. It is first going to go into a parking orbit, and then it's going to go and do another burn to circularize the orbit. So your very standard Starlink, I guess, but this one, I don't know. it's not breaking any records, but it's getting close to one of the records, and that is important because getting close means doing more and more and more of lowering. In this case, I'm gonna go ahead and say what is sort of the kind of record. It's not a record, but it kind of gets close, which is the turnaround time for this Launchpad. It is about 3.5 days for this launch. It is not a record again because the record right now it stands at around 68 hours, which is under 3 days. But it is the second most. It will be the second most fastest turnaround time for this Launchpad. Which, if you think about it, if they can keep doing these launches, under 4 days, and another, at the end of the day, you're averaging an even lower time between launches, aka you're increasing the pace. So that is good. That's what the SpaceX wants, and that's a little bit more of an effort to try to hit this year 148 launches.
That number, of course, being set right at the start of the year, and good progress is being made. However, as SpaceX, they will always want to go faster. Comrade number 2207, Alex is asking, which booster is flying today? And of course, does it have a stubby nozzle? That cursed stubby nozzle.
Well, the stubby nozzle is definitely not on the booster. It is on the second stage. But yeah, today's mission is flying the booster B1069. It is flying on its 15th flight. It has already performed 14 flights by now. It is going to be landing downrange on the Just Read the Instructions drone ship. And, excuse me. And the fairings are also going to be recovered. Bob is out there also around the same location trying to get those fairings back. So hopefully we're going to get not only a booster, but also the fairings. The booster, it's interesting because I mentioned the turnaround time for the Launchpad, that it was not a record, but it's low, and therefore that keeps the average of the flights, the turnaround times down, and therefore they can launch more often. Same thing happens with the booster. The booster is not breaking any records on how fast it's being turned around or anything like it. Although I think it's probably the fastest for a flight that is for a booster that is flying on a 15th flight. And I'm looking through my numbers, and it is indeed the fastest for a 15th flight booster. But nonetheless, it is not breaking any records in terms of it's super fast. But it's faster than average. It's 31 days. They're getting down those numbers, trying to get these flights more often. And if you think about it, it makes sense because I think I mentioned this a couple of launches ago where in 2023, the turnaround times for the boosters were more around 40 days to 50 days. And now it's very rare to see a booster beyond 40 days between flights. And nowadays it's actually like 30 days, 28 days, essentially 1 month between flights for these boosters on average, which means that some of them are a little bit lower, a little bit longer on others, but on average that it's about a month, which is very interesting. We haven't seen this kind of cadence. Again, not breaking any records, but the average keeps going down, which is good overall for the cadence.
And just before we got going here, we did get a little bit of support coming in, so I do just want to give them a quick thanks as SpaceX confirms that all systems are ready and the weather's looking good in Florida, even if the heat haze is horrible in front of Max. Robert, thanks for becoming a Pad Rat member. We also had Donat becoming a Pad Rat member, Till becoming a Red Team member, and Peter becoming a Pad Rat member as well. And another question coming in here. BK Snyder asking, I guess NASA has relaxed that unwritten rule about launching 2 vehicles within 24 hours at the Cape. Max, do we know anything about that? Or is it not applicable because it's a Starliner is not launching on a SpaceX rocket?
Yeah, so essentially that rule is only in place for 2 Falcon 9s launching within 2 days of each other around a NASA mission. That is so the people at NASA can analyze the launch data from Falcon and the second stage to ensure all systems are looking nominal, especially for a crewed mission, because the last thing you want to do is launch a Falcon 9 before a crewed mission and see data that does not look good. So with these 2 vehicles obviously being way different between Falcon 9 and Atlas V with Starliner, that 24-hour rule does not apply here, thankfully.
Sounds good. And of course, on the left there, you can see Space Launch Complex 40, where today, I say today's launch, both of these launches are going to be taking place today, where the first launch, the launch that this stream is for, is going to be taking off from in about 47 minutes' time. You can see the relatively new crew access tower there, and the 4 lightning towers surrounding the pad. And then on the right, you can see one lightning tower, one of 4 lightning towers at Slick 41. That also relatively a little bit older crew access tower there for Starliner. And we are currently looking at the back of the... Oh, there you go. The side-on view is a little bit better. You can see Starliner there atop the Atlas V booster and the Centaur 3 second stage there. Just a little ways down the road. These 2 pads are, of course, neighbours, so I'm sure anybody currently... Oh, there seems to be a lot of people working around the base of Slick 41, so I'm sure they'll be getting a great view if they're still there in 45 minutes' time.
Yeah, probably
And
getting
speaking of
ready
the-
everything for today's launch, because they're still a ways away from that launch.
Yeah, I've forgotten the count. I know it's at 22 something Eastern, so that'll be in like
9 hours,
not 9 hours. Thanks, Alex.
more or less. Yeah. Roughly 9
Speaking
hours.
Speaking of the towers, James Atkinson is asking, what is the distance between the 4 towers? Alex, do we know the distance between the 4 infamous lightning towers we've all come to know and love?
If you give me just 10 seconds, I can tell you about 80 meters. And then the other side is about 125 meters. I had Google Maps open, so that was easy.
Mm-hmm. Wait,
yeah,
so it's not square?
No, it's not a square. It's like a 4-sided polygon, which I don't remember the name right now. But yes, it's not. Yeah, it's not a square. It's not a perfect square. It's 80 by 125 meters.
I feel
don't
like
know
I've been
what
lied
side
to
of
my
feet.
entire life because I thought it was a square, but it's not.
Well, that's how it is. Sadly,
Well, it's also a triangle over at Pad B where SLS flies from.
true.
Yeah, but I thought I knew that was a triangle because there's only 3 of them, you know. But I thought there's 4 of them at Slick 40. They'll be evenly distributed. It'll be a square. It'll be nice and neat. And now I realise that I've been lying to myself for my entire life.
I mean, it's something that you can really only pick out from either an aerial perspective or, say, from like Google Maps or some satellite view. Because from the ground, unless you are from looking at it from a certain perspective, it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, it's a pretty unique rectangle.
Okay. And I've seen a couple people pop into chat and say where they're watching from so far. A couple of them saying that
Right,
they're
talking
watching
while muted.
from... Can you not hear me?
I can. Maybe Max is having some problems out there in the field.
I'll ping Max and let him know. But anyways, I've been seeing some people in chat saying they're watching from Florida. So if you are watching from Florida, make sure to look up at the sky in case you see anything. If you are relatively close to the Cape, or if you're even at the Cape watching along today. And I apologise, mods, but if anyone else is in here and you want to say where you're watching from, do that too. Do that too, because we love seeing the chat fly across as well. Helps all the engagements and all of that stuff. And here they come. They're incoming. Here they go. Here they go. Let's have a look through here again. If you have any questions, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight. Cooper is wondering, do you think SpaceX will develop a Merlin 1E from what they are learning from a Raptor with being able to increase thrust? Alex, what do you think about that? Ponder that one.
Well, I don't think they're going to be developing a Merlin 1E especially based on Raptor, because both engines are way more different than anybody thinks. Because Raptor is a full flow stage combustion cycle engine. Say that 3 times in a row, and you probably get DC. But you know, and it's also Methalox, right? Whereas Merlin, it is a gas generator engine, a very simple gas generator, open cycle kind of thing, like, and it's on Kerolox, so it's not really anything that you can compare to Raptor in that sense. The only way that they could develop a Merlin 1E will be based on Merlin 1D data rather than Raptor data. And they have already increased the thrust of Merlin a lot, more than double from the beginning. Merlin 1A was a very tiny engine in compare, not tiny in the sense of like the size, but in the sense of the thrust of the engine compared to the current Merlin 1D engine. It was very, very weak in comparison. They did a lot of improvements to Merlin to get it to where it is right now. And even right now, for Starlink missions, they're trying to push those numbers as well. They try to push the thrust of the engine a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. And that gets them the enough performance to be able to throw 23 of these satellites into orbit. Because they have the V2 Mini as some sort of like a last name kind of thing, right? But no, they are actually big. They're just mini compared to the full Starlink V2 size of the satellite.
And as I was just invited everybody to say where they're watching from in chat, I've got a very handy graphic with a big circle, and if you're inside of the circle, it means you'll be able to see the launch. So let's take a look as we launch from Slick 40. Just about after the first few seconds of flight, it should become visible over the town city of Titusville. Anywho, then it will move down to Melbourne and across to Orlando. Everyone knows where Orlando is. Then up to Daytona Beach. You'll be able to see it. And as the vehicle then starts to pitch downrange towards the south, you may be able to see it from Tampa or Jacksonville if the conditions approve. But it is a day launch, not a night launch, so it could be a little bit more difficult. Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami will then be able to start to see the vehicle as it pitches downrange over the Bahamas, which if you're in the Bahamas, you may also have a chance at spotting the second stage, although it may be a little faint on the horizon. So just there isn't a guarantee you'll see it. Obviously, your weather and your lighting conditions need to both comply with that there. And then it'll start to move down over towards some other islands in the Caribbean. And there you go. Hopefully that's
and
useful for
hopefully
everybody tuning in.
Yeah, and hopefully the weather is good. We saw SpaceX tweeting that the weather in Florida is looking fantastic for today's Starlink launch, and it is true because today even though it's a little bit hazy and things like that, that's normally the heat haze. The weather today was only 10% probability of violation, aka 90% go. So it was, the forecast for today was really nice, and then you can see it there. The only sort of concern kind of thing, it will be the cumulus cloud rule violation, which obviously it doesn't seem like it might be violating that because I don't see any clouds. At least on this feed, I cannot see any. But yeah, I guess I could also preface for tonight's launch because Starliner also has a really good weather tonight. It's also like 5% probability of violation, which means 95% go. And if it doesn't go tonight, tomorrow is even better. Like it's just nothing. It says no concerns. So hopefully in the next couple of days, we're going to get amazing weather for all of these launches. Because tomorrow is also a Starlink launch as well. There you can see the one for Atlas for the Starliner launch. Only 5% probability of violation. Again, that means 95% chances that the weather is going to be favorable for launch for tonight's Starliner launch. So yeah, that's nice. That's a nice. You remember from Demo 1, the first crew mission with Crew Dragon, the first time around that they attempted that, it was a really horrible day in terms of weather. Kind of interesting that today is going to be the opposite, even though it's about the same time of the year.
And I'm just looking, you were mentioning you can't really see any clouds from this feed. You can't when we're looking at Slick 40. I'm just taking a quick peek at Space Coast Live. You can't when you're looking at 41 or when you're looking over the Atlantic with our Cape cams. But, Jay, if we take a peek at the VAB,
yeah,
look at
there
that. Lots of clouds behind. But that's inland. We're not going that way. We're not launching into the VAB. We're launching in the exact opposite direction in terms of Slick 40 to the VAB. So fingers crossed.
I believe Fleet Cam can see others a little bit over the Launchpad, or at least in the direction of the Launchpad. There you can see there another booster as well. But yeah, some clouds, some very thin clouds there, here and there. It's okay. It's really gorgeous weather today.
It's very bright. Of course, heat haze not helping, but there's literally nothing we can do about the Floridian humidity. It's unfortunately just something that we have to play with at this location, which is kind of why it's here, because at the time nobody lived here, and that's what you wanted for your missile test range over the ocean. Kevin has become a Red Team member. Thanks very much for that, Kevin. Of course, if you want to become a member, feel free to do so too. But also, if you just want to tune in and watch and chat and all of that jazz, feel free to do that as well. We appreciate everybody tuning in today. And Khaled has asked, has SpaceX reached their maximum possible launch rate? How can they improve even more without adding Starship? I'm going to ask the man with all of the spreadsheets. Alex, what's your take on that one?
Well, that is a great question, and right now it doesn't seem like they have reached their maximum possible. So, and there's many ways that they could, in theory, try to cheat their way out of their maximum cadence. The launch pads can support very quick turnaround times in the order of like 4 or 5 days on like all 3 launch pads we have seen so far. And the drone ships, it seemed to me, at least at one point, that it was going to be the limiting factor, but they're trying to get them out there very fast with very fast tugs and try to keep them in port for the shortest amount of time that they can. Essentially, like something in the order of 5 to 6 hours in port and then going out again. So right now, I don't think they are at their maximum possible launch rate, and that is with the current assets. Next year, they'll have Space Launch Complex 6 from the West Coast joining in, so that's going to be another launch pad that they can launch from for Falcon, and maybe even another drone ship. So that means more launches that they can support. It's going to be interesting if they're going to be hitting their... I think next year they have a goal of 200 launches with Falcon, so 148 this year, 200 next year. That's going to be awesome to see them try that. But yeah, without any Starship in the way, it doesn't seem like they have hit the maximum launch rate. I think, and this is a hunch, more of a more than a prediction or anything like it. I think once they have, and by the way, just to give an quick update here, propellants are now flowing into Falcon 9 at pad 40 per SpaceX. So we have already gone into propellant load. But just to finish, what I was going to say is that with the assets that they have now and the ones that they are trying to get to next year, Falcon 9 could in principle, if the production side of things, if the manufacturing side of things were to be capable of that, I think from a launch and recovery standpoint, they could probably do daily launches with Falcon 9, essentially 365 launches in a year. That could be a very possible thing from the launch and recovery side of things in terms of the turnaround times and all of the work that they will need for that. But obviously the manufacturing of the second stage, it's an expendable second stage. The MVAC engine as well, we have seen recently, the Antonov being hired to be able to drop some of the MVAC nozzle extensions for some of these missions this month. So, they're obviously still trying to upgrade all of that as well.
Thanks very much, Alex. And as you said, SpaceX has confirmed that propellant is now flowing into Falcon 9. And if we take a look at the timeline,
there we go.
Right on cue. You can see that we've got RP1 loading into the second stage, RP1 loading into the first stage, and liquid oxygen loading into the first stage. Obviously, the largest tanks are on the first stage, so they start them now before the second stage, so they can get loaded up because it's bigger, so it takes longer because physics. And the launch director has also verified that we go for prop load right before those consumables, shall I say, started flowing into the vehicle. In about 12 minutes, we'll see the LOX chill down, and that will then prompt the start of LOX load into the second stage, before we then get into the more spicy end of the count. Thomas with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Thomas. saying my first time at the Cape for a launch, watching from Jetty Park. How is Max doing out in the field today? It's hot. Where is his camera angle from? So Max, first of all, I'll toss it to you. How are you doing? Is it hot? And whereabouts are you watching from for Slick 40?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, it is a bit warm today, but the breeze is certainly helping out a bit. Yeah, we are currently stationed over in the lawn, on the far side of the lawn, over at the Kennedy Space Center press site. There is a buzz of activity happening right around now because, of course, of the main event happening tonight with the Starliner crew flight test. But yeah, I'm doing great. We are just stationed here, and so Jetty Park is a great spot to watch from. Like, that is a prime location, especially for a southeast flight path like with what's happening today. So props to going there, and with this being your first one, I really hope you enjoy it, and especially with the super clear skies and the breeze coming off the water today, should be a good time.
Yeah, and if I, with my barely comparable experience to Max of seeing 2 launches, I could offer any advice, put your phone down, put your cameras down, and just watch it, and just let it sink in.
Affirmative. Yeah, I would honestly, if it's your first ever launch, especially with you being over at Jetty, I would just soak everything with your Mark 1 eyeballs. It's not worth trying to get everything you possibly can on your phone or any other camera or imagery capturing device you may have on you. Just enjoy it and take in the noise if you can.
And Racy, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, has become a new PadRap member, so thanks very much for that. And James Atkinson back with another question asking, we know that they bring up the Falcon to pressure just before launch, but do we know what pressure the tanks reach? And also, do they pressurize the rocket propellant 1 tanks as well as the liquid oxygen tanks? Alex, do we know, or is this proprietary, ITAR, secretive, we won't tell you anything information?
I don't think we know exactly the pressures for these tanks. We do know, at least for essentially for Starship, because at one point that was sort of the concern, that they couldn't hold the propellants at pressure. That was a long time ago, 4 years ago, in the SN1, SN2, SN3 era, and things like that. Like for Starship, again, it's about 5 to 6 bar on those. But we don't know for Falcon 9. Falcon 9, I don't think we have seen any public figures for the pressure on the tanks, but they are obviously pressurized. And yeah, it's both tanks. Both tanks get pressurized for flight. We know that because we see vents on both tanks. You can see, especially on the RP1 tank, you can see it after it lands, after the booster lands. You can see one vent that goes somewhat down the booster. That is usually the one that sometimes, very rarely, gets on fire. I remember a launch, I think it was last year, where it vented and then it got fire, I guess, because there were some kind of vapors of the kerosene or something left over on that on that pressurization gas. But yeah.
Another good question here about the vehicle. Cooper asking, does the Falcon 9/Heavy have an engine out capability? And if so, how many engines? And I believe, Alex, we've actually seen Falcon complete or partially complete a mission when it's lost an engine before.
Yeah, there's been at least 3 missions that I have knowledge of that have had an engine out on the way up. I believe it was CRS-1. That was a very early Falcon 9. That was the V1.0 version of Falcon 9, and then 2 more recent ones in 2021. And yeah, I don't remember because there were Starlink launches, and there's been over 160. So I'm not gonna say I remember those, but yeah, there were Starlink launches. And one of them was a little bit close to Miko, and then the other one was just like within a second or two of Miko, and both boosters actually were lost because of that, because the engine that went out was part of the recovery part of the booster, and also because when you get an engine out, you have to burn the stage a little bit more, and your trajectory just doesn't line up with a location of the drone ship. So yeah, that's actually the reason why the last booster that was lost, that was B-1059, that booster was lost for that reason. One of the engines went out a little bit close to Miko, essentially very, very close to Miko, and then another one was lost on the way down on re-entry. So yeah, that was probably not a good booster at that point. But the mission was completed successfully. The Starlinks went into their operational orbit, and things went just as fine. Falcon Heavy has more redundancy in terms of the engine out because it has 27 of them, so more of them can go out. On Falcon 9 is 1, maybe 2 if it's late into the flight of the first stage. And obviously the second stage doesn't have any engine out because it's only 1 engine. But yeah, Falcon Heavy, I believe at one point Elon said that maybe 4 can go out and still do the mission.
And being somewhat realistic here, it's been the Falcon family has flown so many times now and so regularly that it's a reliable workhorse, and these things can be trusted with very high profile, very expensive, especially in terms of like the National Reconnaissance Office or the Space Force or the US government. They trust this vehicle with a lot of highly classified and expensive stuff. So it's Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy are trustworthy vehicles at this point.
Yeah.
They
And
have
it's only
more
been-
flight heritage than anything flying ever.
Yeah, it's only been 3 engines out of, I don't know, this is I think the 330th Falcon 9 orbital flight or something like that. I don't know. It's somewhere in the stats that I wrote on the description. You can check those out, by the way, if you have any other questions or whatever. It's usually there. But yeah, it's just 3 engines out of thousands that have flown, or at least thousands of flights of engines. So yeah, it's a very reliable engine.
I can tell you this is, according to your stats that you wrote, Falcon 9's 330th orbital flight, 311th since the Amos 6 anomaly with the helium tank.
Yeah,
before
and that
launch.
counts Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9, so a lot
Okay,
of flights there.
Yes,
Oh
a
well,
lot.
Falcon 9's. Okay, yeah. Falcon 9's 330th orbital flight, and then 311th Falcon orbital launch, which means it's Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9, because it says Falcon instead of Falcon 9. Bit of a trick.
Space Noodles is asking, has there ever been, or will there be, a slightly altered fairing shape for Falcon 9 to accompany larger or different shaped payloads? Now, Alex, as someone who works on This Week in Spaceflight, which publishes every Friday, which you should definitely watch, we've covered this before, haven't we?
Well, yeah, we have seen already an extended fairing, which will be longer but not wider. I don't think they will make any wider fairings than this. It's probably already too wide for Falcon 9. Yeah, but we'll have a longer fairing for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. That is the extended fairing. I believe it extends the fairing. So the current one, I think, off the top of my head, it's about 13 meters long. So the next one, the extended one, will be about 18 meters. It's about 5 more meters of length that you get out there. I don't really know any payloads other than the Halo and PPE, the first 2 gateway modules, which will launch hopefully next year or maybe the following one on a Falcon Heavy with the extended fairing. Those are going to be launched there and are going to need the extended fairing because they are both stacked to each other. And so yeah, that's going to be a long stack to that needs to go up into orbit. So they're going to need the extended fairing, of course.
Indeed, and there's a good question here coming in from Andrew. Relatively simple question, but we accept all questions of all kinds because we're trying to be as open to everybody as possible. Asking, Max, I'll toss this to you. What is a launch double header?
Well, very simply, you have 2 launches within a 24-hour time span. So today we have Falcon 9 flying in hopefully just over 20 minutes, and then later on tonight we have Atlas 5 and Starliner flying at 10:43 p.m. local time, which is Eastern Standard Time here in Florida. This has happened I think it happened for the first time in a very long time. I want to say 2 years ago with an Atlas V, the last ever Spurs Geo 6, I think it was, launching very early in the morning. And then there was a Falcon 9, I believe it was a Starlink mission launching later that afternoon. So that was the first time we had a double header since the days of Gemini. And it's happened numerous times since then, simply because mostly of what Falcon, or what SpaceX can do with Falcon 9 and having 2 available launch complexes. So the double headers are becoming ever more prominent and ever more common.
And actually, if you count all the launches happening within 24 hours, there might be a third. Tomorrow from 39A, there's another Starlink launch. That should be, the window opens at 11:08 a.m. Eastern, so that's going to be a morning launch
So
from 39A.
It would technically be a triple header then. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
And there is 39A. Currently, without a rocket, we're expecting that to roll out of the horizontal integration facility in due course to get ready for that launch tomorrow.
Hopefully soon.
Andrew, as a different Andrew, has become a PadRat member. Thanks very much for that. And speaking of the memberships, Gareth is asking, what do the different membership levels signify? Well, if you click the join button, it will come up with a little list of all the different levels. Basically, the higher the tier, the more perks you get. So there's things like member photos, and then at Capcom you get access to the Discord, and then there's also behind the scenes videos. Like we did a behind the scenes for our Flight 3 stream where you can see all of the cameras at the same time, and then we also had cameras looking at me and Tanner and Gage as he was tracking the rocket, and loads of cool things like that. So if behind the scenes content and exclusive looks at our starbase photos and all of that kind of stuff is, then the membership program is definitely going to be your cup of tea. It's there's a load of, and even just for archival purposes, looking all the way back, you can see right there from the beginnings of Boca Chica in there as well. And as we hit 20 minutes to go, the LOX chill down begins, and there it is. The T-minus 20-minute event has appeared on the Strongback. Or Transporter Erector, or whatever Alex decides it's going to be called today.
Yeah, it's the Stromback. Yeah, the Transporter Erector is the reaction fixture, and the Stromback. 2 pieces.
Okay. I always get them the wrong way round, or I use the wrong word for one thing when I need to use the other thing for the other thing. So Alex likes to always correct me when I get that the wrong way round. But luckily I got it the right way round first time. The sky colour, obviously the humidity makes the light, it scatters light and physics things, so it makes the sky look brighter, and it's a little bit, there's moisture in the air, so it does make the event a little bit harder to spot against the background, but we can still say it's very, very puffy, very fluffy as it vents out there.
Fluffy.
Yeah, D's can get another good view of it here.
Just don't try to get very near.
Wonderful weather down in Florida. I mean, apart from the humidity, but all the rest of it looking good. And Apocalypse Cow, thanks very much, has gifted 5 Red Team memberships. That's always appreciated, because not only have you supported NSF, but 5 people who might not necessarily have been able to afford a membership now get a membership, get a Red Team membership, which is the second level, completely free of charge. They get it for a whole month, nothing or other. There's no hidden fees, no hidden charges. It's just, you just get it for a month for free. So thank you very much for that, Apocalypse Cow. That is greatly appreciated, not only on behalf of NSF, but on behalf of everyone who's just got a membership. And let's take a look at another question here. Avenger is asking, if a landing attempt is failed, would there be a mishap investigation triggered? Now, Alex, if Falcon can't land, would it trigger a mishap investigation with the FAA?
That's a great question. I actually don't have a right answer to that. They haven't had that in the past, but also in the past, those failed landing attempts were happening with the older regulations. That's That's how long ago it was that those landing failures happened. They also happened very close to the drone ship. It was not like, for example, with a Starship. Nonetheless, so for a Starship, for example, you had very like a big deviation. It was very far away for the ship and things like that. So obviously that is not the same. It's also different regulations. It's a different launch license. It's lots of things are different. So it's not a one-to-one kind of thing. It's not going to be, the landing attempt failed, therefore mishap investigation triggered. It will probably initiate some kind of investigation internally either ways, because obviously if the landing fails, they must find a reason why that failed before risking to lose another booster. But nowadays, if they lose a booster due to a failed landing, it's probably going to be down to something specific to that booster rather than some design flaw or something like that. It's kind of crazy that they have been able to do, I think this will be the 230th consecutive landing. Yep. So this will be the 230th consecutive landing if it's actually successful since the last failed landing. Which is a lot of landings if you think about it. If there's something wrong with the design, it kind of makes you think that they will have probably caught that a long time ago, and they don't have any redundancy. Because they have all the same 3 engines are always used for, not the same 3 engines specifically, the same serial numbers, but the same 3 positions on the engine section are always used. They don't have, they cannot use the other 6 engines essentially for the landing. If the center engine goes out, it goes out. The booster cannot land because it uses the center engine. It cannot use any of the other engines for the landing burn. So they don't have a lot of the redundancy. For example, that Starship and Super Heavy will eventually have. They have a lot more engines that can relight. They have a lot of redundancy there as well. They have a lot of other systems that don't rely on single-use kind of systems and things like that. They don't have the T-tab, for example. If that runs out, you don't land the booster. Falcon Heavy demo for that center core that happened where the T-tab ran out and the booster could not land. Hydraulics, there are no hydraulics on Starship as well. It's all electric motors and things like that. So obviously you have a lot more redundancy, and and Falcon 9 doesn't, and still it is very reliable on that landing.
We're approaching 14 minutes now until launch, so really the top end of the count here. Things still tracking good, weather looks good, vehicle is fueling, you can see the frost there on the first stage, obscuring the soot, things looking good. And a question here from James, which has nothing to do with today's launch, but I'm the one in charge of picking questions today, so I'll pick it anyway. With the progress happening at the Saxavord spaceport in the Shetlands, will NSF manage to get cameras at the launch site for any testing coming up? I don't know. I don't know if DAS is secretly planning something. I'm sure. I'm just going to say that the Shetlands probably isn't the most luxurious holiday destination for DAS to go to set up Shetland Live. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't know if he would want to, because there's a long way to go. But we'll have to see. We'll have to look into that. I'm for it, but weather again isn't as favourable as it is in some other parts of the world where he is more accustomed to, shall I say. And Aaron is asking, how many Starlink satellites have been deorbited in total? That's another stat Alex likes to write into Twist every week. So Alex, at this point in time, how many have been deorbited from after being launched?
414 have re-entered already out of the over 6,300 satellites that have been launched. Jonathan McDowell has a really great website. I can probably link it in chat. You can probably read it more carefully. I'm not going to be explaining everything there, but it says all of the stats. And on every episode of This Week in Spaceflight, every Friday, we put out some very short stats there. At least the 3 most important stats to me, at least, are how many have they launched in total, how many of them have re-entered, And of the ones that are still in orbit, how many of them are in operational orbit? You can probably see there on those numbers that there are still about 600 of those satellites are in orbit, but they haven't reached yet their operational orbit because they take a long while to get there. Yeah.
And James again with a question. We know aeroplanes sometimes have bird strikes. Has there ever been a known bird strike on a rocket flight? If so, did it cause any issues? Max, just before we send you and Dee off to get ready to track the rocket, have we seen any birds, or should I just say wildlife, get in the way of rocket launches at the Cape?
I think the most infamous example of this would be the bird strike right at Liftoff during was the return to flight after the unfortunate demise of Columbia back in 2005. You can see it in cameras placed on the north side of the pad, looking up towards the top of the external tank. You can see you can see the entire stack smack right into a bird. Unfortunately, about 2 or 3 seconds after T0 and booster ignition. That is the most infamous example, but I don't know if there are any others. But that is the one confirmed case where that has for sure happened.
We
And
also
with
had the
that,
frog.
oh, and the frog.
And the frog. That's right. That's right.
The infamous frog. And with that, it's well, I suppose you can stick around for a few minutes before we have to let you go do some tracking, as we have about 10 minutes to go now. Vehicle looking good in this very humid Floridian atmosphere. Christian with a $10 tip at tips.nasaspaceflight.com. Thank you very much for that. That's one of the other ways you can support us if you want to, instead of going to instead of doing a super chat. If you just want to send it directly to us without doing it through YouTube, you can do that as well. We have loads of options. So thanks very much to Christian for doing that. Saying, let's light this candle for my birthday today. Thanks to the NSF team for all you do. Well, you're very welcome, and hopefully you've had a good birthday so far. Hopefully this is the first of 2 candles today for your birthday. Of course, referencing Starliner coming up later in the day, if things continue as expected, which at the moment we're expecting it to all go well. And let's have a look through here for any more last-minute questions. A relevant one as well, and from James again. Do we know when the T-tab gets loaded, Alex?
I believe the T-tab is loaded during iteration of the rocket. It's not loaded during the. I believe that's based on previous statements, on different on different press conferences and things like that. They do have T-tab supplied through the ground systems for the engine ignition. So in about 9 minutes from now, when they ignite those 9 Merlin engines, they supply T-tab from the ground to be able to ignite the engines on the ground. It's very similar on how Super Heavy gets all of the stuff to ignite the outer 20 engines on that booster to be able, from the ground systems. Because it's true that, while you're still being supplied by the ground systems, why not get stuff from the ground systems to ignite your engines? And so they get the helium from the ground system to spin up the pumps on those Merlin engines. They get the T-tab as well. I believe even the RP1 for the wiggling test, the gimbal test that they do. Those things are supplied by the ground, because obviously you're still on the ground, even though you're about to lift off. You kind of want to use the ground systems and not having to carry all of that on board. So the T-tab that they carry on board is loaded well before on canisters that are on the 2 stages, and it is loaded well. It is loaded well before they even roll out. And again, it is something that is only used on the booster. It's only 3 of the engines have these canisters plugged in, so the rest they get their T-tab ground fed as well. And then the second stage obviously has T-tab for relights and everything, not only for the first ignition but also for all the relights that it's going to be doing. It probably can hold more than 1 canister if they need more relights and things like that, but I don't recall right now, to be fair.
And Real Foggy asking, what is the largest space telescope Falcon 9 could launch? Hubble ? Now, Alex, Hubble barely fit in the payload bay of the shuttle, and that was, and it was deployed at the highest orbit that the shuttle could realistically get to with a payload that size. So could Falcon do something similar?
Well, in terms of diameter, Hubble could fit inside of the fairing. It's just too long. So the problem will be the length. You'll probably need the extended fairing or even something larger than that because it's way longer. But in terms of the fairing diameter, it could probably fit down inside. Now, whether that will be a good choice to as a rocket to launch Hubble, I don't think, because it's not. The Hubble was not made to be launched by a normal kind of rocket like this. It was meant to launch from a shuttle bay. Now there are other telescopes though that have launched on Falcon 9. We have had the Euclid telescope from ESA, but it was not anywhere near fitting. Having to occupy the whole of the fairing on Falcon 9. It was nowhere near that. It's a more tinier spacecraft in that sense. There's gonna be in the future, I should say, it's gonna be in the future the Roman telescope on Falcon Heavy. So that's gonna be exciting because that Roman telescope is actually the size of the Hubble. But yeah, it's differently designed.
Yeah, it's if I remember correctly, it's got a mirror that was kind of a leftover mirror from the NRO, and they're just like, here you go, NASA, you can have this. Just don't point it at the Earth. Point it into space. And with that, Max, we're going to send you off. Have fun tracking this rocket, which is going to launch in just over 5 minutes' time.
It is indeed that time, everybody. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and I will see y'all on the other side.
Frost still building around the outside of the booster, and maybe the second stage? I can't really tell. The humidity is definitely not helping. Thanks, Alex. Thanks. Booster. We make the language. I'll say it how I like. 5 minutes to go now until the launch of Starlink 657. And I'll see if there's any last minute questions in here. Let's have a look. Very quickly, Ben asking, do we know the launch direction? Is it east? ? Yes, it is. It is going to the east, Alex, isn't it?
Kinda. Southeast.
It's got east in the... Well, it's going... Opposed to going west, is what I was more getting at.
Okay, sure. It's going east, but not straight east. It's going southeast. I don't know if maybe Jay can pull up quickly the trajectory map. But essentially, it's going southeast, just like the previous Starlink launches. It is heading in its trajectory southeast, that you can see that trajectory. It's going to come very, very close to the north of the Bahamas, there with a drone ship landing just to the northeast of the Bahamas. So if you are in the area, just look up in 4 minutes and you may see that launch. But yeah, we're getting through the final phases of the countdown here with a Stromback retract happening just a few seconds from now. LOX load on both the stages will finish, and hopefully we're gonna get into the terminal count.
Just 3 minutes, 45 seconds to go. I'm seeing a little bit of venting there as as lines are purged for the last time before launch, making sure there's no foreign object debris or any gas where there should be a liquid or any liquid where there should be a gas, because when you mix and match with your states, if you're trying to ingest gas as a fuel into an engine, it's not going to be nominal combustion, shall I put it that way. And Richard, with a last-minute £10 super chat here, saying, we do know the direction. Up. Yes, you are correct, Richard. For the first few seconds or so, it will indeed be going up, and then very slowly start to tilt sideways so it can get enough, get up to the velocity required for this payload's low Earth orbit.
If it only went up, then there will be a very troubled space flight. It will probably go into space.
It would have a very high apogee, but not a very high perigee.
Exactly. But yeah,
2 minutes to go.
In fact, the speed that it should get, if I remember correctly, is around 27,052 kilometers per hour. We'll see that on the SpaceX telemetry and everything. We'll see. But yeah, Falcon 9 is still going through propellant load. The first stage has completed liquid oxygen load, so we're getting there.
And I just saw a question in chat from CD. They didn't tag us, but I'm going to answer it anyway, saying, will tonight's launch have a jellyfish? I assume you're meaning Starliner's launch. This launch definitely won't, because the sun is very bright in the sky, as you can see from, I believe this is well, this is either Max's or D's pack right now, as we are 2 minutes to go until launch. But unfortunately, I think that the T0 time of Starliner is going to be just a bit too late. It's going to be a couple hours after sunset, so that will give the sun a lot of time to, or rather the Earth a lot of time to rotate enough so that the sun isn't visible even at the altitude where the Starliner spacecraft will be going over Florida.
And there you
SpaceX
can see that
confirming
vent.
SpaceX confirming we're still going. That is the final vent that we'll see today. Alex, if you wish to continue your thought.
Yeah, that is the one that indicates that stage 2 LUX load is complete. Now Falcon 9 is fully loaded with propellants for flight.
Can see a very clear crystal shot. It helps when you can get your camera closer to the pad like SpaceX can do, because then you don't have to combat the heat haze. But a much clearer shot there of the vent at the side of the strongback as the count continues to count down. 60 seconds now until launch. If it doesn't launch within the next 60 seconds, then it isn't launching today, because that's Falcon 9's entire kind of philosophy. Load and go. Load the propellants up until the very final point you can, and then send it. And because these are super cooled, if you let them sit in the rocket, then they'll lose their temperature, they'll change their density, they won't be as efficient, and the vehicle can no longer perform as expected. Just 35 seconds to go now until launch. Alex may chime in quickly with a go for launch if we get it from the launch director.
Yep, they are just go for launch.
Here we go then. 25 seconds to go. The last little puffs of vent appearing as the vehicle's very frosty now. Just over 15 seconds to go. You can hear it's a little bit windy at the press site. Hopefully not as windy at the pad. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. We'll see the ignition of the first stage. And liftoff. We're off and away with Starlink 657, carrying yet another batch of Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit. We've cleared the tower, and we're ascending into the beautiful blue skies of Florida. Let's listen in for the the rumble rather, of those Merlin engines. We're 70 seconds into flight. That was a beautiful Caralox crackle there as the vapour appears as Falcon 9 ascends. The VAB squeal as well. Look at this. Beautiful shot here from a beautiful Florida sunny afternoon. You can see the plume expanding of the 9 Merlin engines on the booster as the relative atmospheric pressure around the vehicle starts to drop as it ascends. MECO will be coming up any second now. Beautiful plume here.
Yeah, still 30 seconds away from that.
The colour changes slightly. It's still expanding as it gets higher and higher.
Oh, sideways view.
Seeing it from the near the beach here at Coco, near Jetty Park.
Yeah, that looks like one of our Cape cams.
Yeah, I think Roger, or no, Gage is in it today, sorry, tracking with one of our robots there. There's MECO. Stage separation coming now. And I believe that is the ignition of the second stage. I'm back at the press site, looking dead on with the engine of the second stage, and I think we can also see some puffs there. That would either be from the booster or fairing separation, which should also be coming shortly. I think that could be from the booster, actually. Those puffs you see above that little dot, I think that could be the booster.
Yeah, that's the booster still. A few more seconds until fairing separation, and, well, there you go.
Fairing separation coming any moment now. There we go. And there we go. Those Starlinks exposed to the vacuum of space for the first time. And you can see the fairing falling back in the background of the Merlin vacuum. The wonderful looking, non-cursed normal Merlin vacuum engine.
I think this is
Booster
one of
continuing to
the
float.
nozzle extensions that they shipped on the Antonov the other day. Because they said on the paperwork that it was going to be for Starlink 657 and Starlink 658. But they also changed the order, right? So who knows? Because it was supposed to be 656 today and tomorrow 657. And then they changed at the last time. In very SpaceX fashion, because that's a very SpaceX thing to do to then, last minute say, hey, we're switching.
Either way, they've at least got a couple more nozzle extensions at the Cape, thanks to that Antonov flight over. As we now patiently wait for the altitude of the booster to start dropping. It's still increasing, it's still going up, it's yet to hit its apogee. It should be hitting its apogee around now, Alex, if I'm correct. We're at 117 kilometers for the booster. I don't think it'll really get... Yeah, there you go. You can see it's starting to drop now.
Yeah.
And the speed is increasing as well as it starts to fall back to the surface of the Earth. Looking today, I believe, for a touchdown on just read the instructions. ...599 kilometers downrange. We daren't round it up to 600. You can see an equally beautiful looking sunny afternoon in the Bahamas, except instead of watching from the Bahamas, we're looking down on the Bahamas with these live views of Earth from space.
Yeah.
Just
you can see the north side of it there.
Yeah,
on
the
the
beautiful
left.
colour of the water there. And also on the...
Also from the
bottom
second
of the
stage.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Second stage continuing its burn today. First off, the second stage... Am I correct in saying the second stage does 2 burns? 1 to get the Starlinks into orbit and then 1 to deorbit? Or does it do 2 to get into orbit and then 1 to deorbit?
If you count the deorbit, then it's going to be 3 burns. It gets first into a parking orbit, and then it waits until it reaches the apogee of the orbit, and then relights again for just a second to circularize the orbit.
The booster now turned to face aft end first as it prepares for the entry burn, coming up in just a few seconds here. Momentarily, those Merlins will start up for another time, and we'll see the plume shape change as they go from 1 to 3, then back down to 1. 1, 3.
There you go.
And back down to 1, and then none momentarily. This will slow the booster down so it can enter the atmosphere without burning up or getting too damaged in order to perform its landing burn. This is, of course, something that SpaceX no longer needs on the Super Heavy booster for Starship, because that's how they've engineered the vehicle to operate. And that landing burn should be coming at approximately 7 minutes and 55 seconds into flight. So we are approximately 1 minute away from the start of the landing burn. Touchdown should come just about 20 seconds later.
Look at how fast that booster approaches.
Getting a little bit wobbly as we hit the wind here. It's starting to dogleg over, using its little bit of lift and the grid fins to steer itself towards the drone ship. Of course, they don't. The initial trajectory is not going to allow the booster to impact the drone ship in case it does have an anomaly, an English anomaly, so it doesn't damage the drone ship there. I believe we can actually see the drone ship peeking from, unless it's just a cloud. I can't tell. I think that
But
might just be a cloud.
they also try not to have the booster. So they essentially, in order to reduce the amount of propellant that it needs for the landing, they try to make it fly towards the drone ship as well. There you can see it now, the drone ship on the grid fin and landing burn.
That was not the drone ship. That was indeed a cloud, as I pointed out earlier. Alex correctly pointing out that this is the drone ship as we approach the surface of the ocean, decelerating rather through 300, 200 kilometers an hour, all the way down to zero. As the Falcon, you can see the shadow on the deck. Look at that, and it's another smooth touchdown. X marks the spot for this Falcon 9 booster.
That was cool.
That was a beautiful landing here on the deck of Just Read the Instructions. B1069, congratulations. Another successful flight under its belt. And the second engine will be shutting down now.
And looks nominal to me. See, 27,056 kilometers per hour.
And with that, Falcon 9 B1069 and its second stage have done their jobs to get the payload into its parking orbit, as Alex said just a few minutes ago. Another burn coming up later in the day to circularize the orbit, get it into its actual deployment orbit. The Starlinks will then deploy, and then the Falcon 9 second stage will deorbit itself to not clutter up LEO.
That was another 15th flight for a booster, which means there are now 8 of them that have already completed 15 flights. I believe it is 8. Now I'm going to check my spreadsheet, because I'm now doubting myself.
Go update your spreadsheet, Alex. Max, do we have you back yet?
I would sure hope so. How do you have me?
How you doing, Max? How was that? Was that not? Did the humidity add to the audio experience?
You know what? Because of what the wind is doing right now, the wind is blowing directly from the direction of where the pad is relative to us and blowing right at us. And so as a result of that, we heard a lot more crackle, a lot more like thunderous, like clapping and thudding in the sound. And it was absolutely glorious. I sure hope that the VAB squeal came in through the microphone as well, because that was absolutely potent today. And also, it was really nice to see Falcon 9 climb out of that, a majority of that haze layer, because there is still a bit of it on the ground where we are relative to where it is. But yeah, saw it all the way up just past stage SEP, and I think I lost it right before fairings up as well. But yeah, picture perfect launch from Slick 40.
Indeed, you can see now the pad is empty. That's a good sign because the rocket has done its job. That strong back will be rotating back up into the vertical position within the next few minutes here as SpaceX begins to safe the pad following the launch so they can get ready to do this all again. Alex, do we know when the next launch from Slick 40 is going to be?
Well, usually the rule of thumb is to just wait around 4 or 5 days and you'll have another launch from here.
I'll just wait around 4 or 5 days then. Problem solved.
Yeah. But if you want a Starlink launch at all tomorrow, there's one from Launch Complex 39A.
We'll be live for that one, so make sure to tune in. During the launch, we got a lot of support in the chat, so thanks very much, first of all, to Peter with the $5 Aussie. Thank you very much for the support there. And TCow4054, thanks for the $19.99 super chat. That's very much appreciated. Shout out from Merritt Island to Derek, Wesley, and Danilyn. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Always a privilege to watch the progress live on the East Coast. Go Falcon. And Sheriff Tracy gifting a Red Team membership. Thanks very much, Tracy. As always in chat, always helping out. And occasionally gifting some memberships as well. Of course, I'll mention it again, the membership system, the gifted membership system rather, is completely you don't get to pick who they go to. It just goes to people based on watch time and how much of a supporter of the channel, how much of a supporter of the channel they are. I had tea just before this, so I'm a little bit getting the gas up. But yeah, it's a algorithm-based YouTube, all of that jazz. So we don't pick who gets them. The person gifting doesn't pick who gets them. It's just they're kind of tossed out, just thrown out like a pack of cards, and then YouTube gifts them to whoever they think watches the channel more. There's some good questions coming into the queue here, so keep them coming. I'm going to load them up now very quickly. As
I have
Alex?
an update.
Oh,
You remember that launch that I said was going to happen tomorrow?
is it no longer
Well-
happening tomorrow?
Wednesday. let's look at Wednesday for that one. Yeah, it's delaying.
Okay.
That's
That means-
the Starlink, not Starliner, by the way. Just to be safe, it's not tonight's launch. Tonight's launch is still on schedule. It is the one that was going to happen tomorrow. It's now the very next day. That's the Starlink
means-
656.
That
Go
means
ahead,
Dee and I
Max.
can get some sleep tonight, thankfully, because that would have been a very rough turnaround, at least for our sleep schedules to support a launch tomorrow. But we would have been happy to do it regardless. But some much needed rest is probably in order after tonight's festivities.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have a Starliner tonight, and then you're probably going to get all remotes and everything. So yeah, it's going to be a long, long day. Hopefully you get some rest tomorrow. I believe there's also some activity tomorrow from Starbase, maybe. So that will be also good
Well,
for
they're posting
us
road
in
closures,
general.
but they're not actually doing anything.
That's true as well, yes. There are some things, some closures being posted and then nothing happening.
Going to go through some quick questions here before we get into some replays. James asking, what is mine and Alex's favourite piece of Falcon trivia? Well, I don't really have a favourite piece of Falcon trivia. I'm sure Alex can think of something. He understands this vehicle much better than I do.
Well, I don't have anything. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are interesting about Falcon 9. To me, at the very least, in terms of not Falcon 9 per se, but how when they developed Starship at the beginning, a lot of the systems were very familiar, were very similar to the Falcon 9. Like even the configuration of the 9 engines on Booster 4, for example, it's very similar to how the inner 9 engines on Booster 4, because it also had, the outer 20. But yeah, those inner 9 engines, they were very similar in their positions to the ones on Falcon 9, even with the, very, very peculiar things such as not being symmetric around the body of the booster. That is something interesting. But yeah, I don't have a specific Falcon trivia because there's been so many launches and so many things within the rocket that I just couldn't be able to say.
Mike is asking if we could provide a timestamp for the VAB squeal. It was about 60 seconds into flight, so if you scroll back for 60 seconds, I don't know if our replays will have any audio, we might catch it in there as well. That's about when it was in there. I could hear it, so hopefully you can hear it as well. Keith is asking, how many launches are in Shell 6 for Starlink in this specific group we saw launch today? Alex, do we know?
Well, we don't really know right now how many launches, because one of the things that I mentioned before on a previous Starlink launch is that they're keeping these launches without really releasing FCC permits, the Federal Communications Commissions. Essentially, when they try to talk to the rocket, they have a more general permit now for communications with the rocket. And so these pop up, and the only way that we know of them is because we see node times and they say Starlink 657, or they say Starlink whatever, right? Whatever other kind of mission it is, like A2, for example, from the West Coast. It's coming up soon as well. And so that's the only way that we know. And those node times, they come off very, very close to the launch. Speaking of launches, replays.
There
We
isn't
have
another
lots of
one.
them.
Don't worry. We're just going to watch the same one again. This is from one of our bots on the roof of the hut. I think that could be Max and D in the very bottom left there of the frame. That could be them. I can't. It's very small, so I can't really tell. But that could be them. And you can see here Falcon 9 ascending from Slick 40. Indeed, it does go up straight away for the first few seconds before it then starts to tilt away from the pad. And you can actually see, Jay, I hate to backseat direct, thanks. But in the background, in the bottom left, you can also see Slick 41 there, which is where Starliner and Atlas 5 currently is. Just to the, you can see the building in front with the big light post. Look to the left, you'll see the vertical integration facility for ULA. Look to the left a little bit more, you'll see the 4 towers, the crew access tower, sorry, and the vehicle vertical on the pad there. Okay, we can look at the other angle now. Thanks, Jay. And here you go, a more close-up view looking over the trees and shrubbery from the from the hut. And as we look at this replay, Gareth asking, what's the difference between apogee and perigee? Alex Physics, I will pass this one over to you.
Yeah, the apogee is essentially the highest part of the orbit, and then the perigee is the lowest point. And the technical term is actually apoapsis and periapsis, but for Earth it's called apogee and perigee because it's like from geo is somewhere like it's coming from the Greek language, right? That it means Earth or something like that. For the for the moon, it's something like apolune and perilune. But there you can see a very amazing slow-mo footage from D out there from these launches 19 minutes ago.
You can see very clearly here how as the vehicle ascends, all of the frost built up on the outside just kind of stops moving, or it doesn't move compared to the vehicle. It appears, and there's a bird, seagull or something in front of the Falcon there. Beautiful crystal clear shot here as it headed uphill. Obviously, once it gets out of that kind of hazy layer of heat, atmosphere, all of that physicsy stuff on the ground level, once it gets up into the sky, it becomes a little bit easier to see. The shot becomes less wobbly because obviously we're not looking so close to the ground where the heat builds up. But look at this beautiful vapor trail following the Falcon as it launched. Look at this, just beautiful shot, beautiful shot. And Brian is asking, has there ever been an issue with 2 countries wanting to launch at the same time, but they can't do it? Alex, do we know of any issue in the past or no?
2 countries wanting to launch at the same time, but cannot do it. I'm not sure what that means in terms of...
I would guess,
like,
you know, if SpaceX wanted to launch and then someone in Russia wanted to launch at the exact same time, could they do it? Or has that ever been an issue before?
Yeah, I guess. It kind of depends on where they are going. Because, you know, when you start launching, you're not going directly into orbit like within the moment that you ignite the engines. You take some time to get there. The other rocket will also take some time. It's probably going to be different orbits. They may not even intersect at any point. So you could probably do that, yeah. I think the shortest amount of time between 2 launches worldwide has been under a minute between 2 Thor launches, one from the East Coast and one from the West Coast of the United States. But those were not, one of them was not successful. Between successful launches was one with Falcon 9 from the West Coast launching the Iridium 4 mission, and before that, 72 seconds before that, there was an H-2A rocket from Japan launching, I think it was some kind of other observation satellite or something like that. But yeah, they were both launching within 72 seconds. I remember watching that live. I had one feed on one screen and then the other feed on the other screen. It was really awesome. But yeah, there's no really a concern, I guess.
And Adam and Ricky are both asking the same question here, asking, will we be covering the Atlas Starliner launch tonight? Of course we'll be covering the Starliner launch tonight. It's the first crewed flight of a vehicle. How could we not cover it? I'll spam the link to that stream in chat right now. So if you want to, once we're finished, head over there, click the little notify me button, and then it'll ping you when we go live. We're going live in about approximately 4 hours before T0 for that one. So tune in. That goes live at 15 minutes, approximately. Again, things slip. 15 minutes past, 22:15 UTC. Do your UTC offset for your local time zone. And with that, I'd like to, first of all, I forgot to mention him, very quickly, Richard becoming a Power Up member. Thanks very much for that, Richard. I forgot to mention him at the start, and I've mentioned him many times during the show today. Jay, thanks very much for doing all your things behind the scenes, clicking your buttons, clicking your Stream Deck buttons, doing the replays, showing the replays, doing whatever I tell you to do because I missed something and then had to go back and look at the other replay to see the thing I just noticed when you moved it. All of that stuff. Thanks very much, Jay, for dealing with me. Another big thank you to Max. Thanks very much for being out in the field along with Dee. Thank you very much, Max. It's going to be a long day for you too. I know it is.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. It is indeed going to be a long day and a long night for the both of us. But you know what? These are the days that we live for, with how busy the Space Coast has become, and with the missions that are now currently flying, and hopefully ones that are flying in the future. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and we hope to see you later on this evening for the main event for the crewed flight test of Boeing Starliner.
Breaking news, I've just been informed Jay actually has a lever now, so he can actually push the buttons and pull the levers.
Is that
groundbreaking stuff.
The piece of hardware that we were looking the other day? I'm going to have to talk with Jay later after the stream.
He's got an audio mixer. Wow, okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'll talk to Jay about this cool stuff after the stream. Let's actually try and wrap up. Sorry, I've taken us completely off the rails here. Alex, thanks very much for being on with me today.
Well, we need to get you that as well. When you're operating a stream, you should also pull levers as well, Ryan. But yeah,
Okay.
Someone asked if we were covering Starliner. Of course, we cover all the stars, right? Starship, Starliner, and Starlink. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, very very thankful to be here as well, and see you all next time. I don't know when I'm gonna be next time, but NSF will be next time tonight on Starliner.
And with that, my name's been Ryan Caton. I'll be back. Don't fear, I'll be back. I'm doing the Starliner stream along with a certain bacon lover if things work out. So I'll see you in about 3-ish hours or so for that. But with that, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Well done, SpaceX, for a successful launch, and we'll see you all later. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Say again, SPD off. It's orange!
45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?